Hello, we continue with our study of the Constitution. We now come to Article 14 of the 1987 Constitution, covering education, science, technology, arts, culture, and sports. However, under the 2025 um, bar syllabus, it only speaks of education, particularly on the academic freedom. So, what is academic freedom? Now, we find the provision on the academic freedom uh, under Article 14, Section 5, Subparagraph 2 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, which speaks of academic freedom shall be enjoyed in all institutions of higher learning. However, it does not define what academic freedom is. So we have to find other sources in order to define what academic freedom is. So apparently, in the discussions in the during the convention for the 1987 Philippine Constitution, pertaining to academic freedom, it actually, a delegate said that the Supreme Court is given the prerogative in order to determine what academic freedom is. Okay, or of course, in the legislature of what academic freedom is. Okay, because academic freedom apparently is something which is dynamic, ever changing, and well, of course, no, with that particular description of what academic freedom is, we cannot have a stale definition of academic freedom. Okay, as we all know, the advances in the academe, no, is really very um, prominent now, considering no the methodologies have changed. No, so like what we are doing now, no, it would have been unthinkable some 10 years ago that we would have this kind of technology that would allow you to teach or to learn and for the teacher to teach no outside the classroom. Okay, now, so according to Justice Estela Perlas Bernabe in her concurring opinion in Pimentel versus Medial Dia, academic freedom has a social function and its business is conducted for the common good and that it is a necessary tool, no, for critical inquiry or truth and its free exposition. No? So you need academic freedom to really learn. Okay, so that there would be an interesting intellectual discourse. There will be debate, no, without fear of again, no, of expressing their opinions and thoughts. Okay, so the guarantee of academic freedom is complementary, according to her, to the freedom of expression and the freedom of the mind. So we can say that academic freedom is closely tied to certain provisions of our Bill of Rights, no, under the Constitution, such as the freedom of expression, where the rights of professors and students, no, to express their thoughts and opinions, okay, is integral to academic freedom. It allows for lively debates, no, and of course, no, discussions, a discourse between teachers, between students. No? So um, we can really now have a true learning experience if there is no having to listen to other sides of a particular issue. And of course, we have to take into consideration that it is also related to the freedom of association, for faculty and students, and to form associations, including unions and academic societies. Okay, so of course, now these particular unions and academic societies allow, no, um, what do you call this? A support group, no, for teachers, for professors, no, within their particular institution itself for the protection of academic freedoms. Okay, So these particular societies, these particular unions, no, can help, no, preserve the sanctity of such academic freedom, as noted. Now, what is academic freedom? Again, the question. But there are two views of that, no? There's the academic freedom from the standpoint of the educational institution and from the standpoint of the members of the academe. From the view of the educational institution, academic freedom pertains to the freedom of a university to determine who may teach, what may be taught, how it shall be taught, and who may be admitted to study. So that pertains to the institution itself. Okay. So it has the freedom to select their teachers and their curricula. Okay. And how shall it be taught? Okay. But you have to understand also that despite these particular freedoms, these particular freedoms are not absolute. There are limitations to this academic freedom. Of course, with the as mentioned in the previous slide, these particular education institutions have the freedom to select, okay, who to teach and who to admit. And logically, you would also see that, well, they have also the freedom to exclude or to expel either teachers or their students, as well as to impose lesser sanctions such as suspension. However, in the exercise of these particular freedoms, due process must still be observed, okay, in order to validly exercise such academic freedoms of imposing such penalties to erring students or teachers. And of course, now as I mentioned, with due process and for uh, for cause. So we now come to the um, viewpoint of the members of the academe. Okay, as I mentioned a while ago, no, the from the viewpoint of the institution itself, no, there's a difference because in the institution it is concerned about who to hire, okay, and who to retain, who to expel, okay, and what to be taught, okay. But in the members of the academe, it pertains to the teachers, the professors, no, instructors or research workers in these particular institutions, no, having the freedom, having the ability to express their ideas or to conduct research, no, to publish papers without fear of retribution, fear of interference coming from the institution itself, no, whether it be an ecclesiastical institution like St. Louis University, of course, no, the more prominent one here in our part of the Philippines, but um, there can also be interference coming from the government, no, a pressure coming from the government, particularly if the research tends to criticize the government and the government would try to suppress whatever the findings are. Okay. Of course, as I mentioned, there are limitations to the exercise of these particular freedoms. Okay. So, in an instance where no, the manner by which the data was acquired was unethical, or that the uh, the manner by which it was acquired was also incompetent. No, it did not follow the certain um, methods that should have been followed, and that would guarantee a more accurate result. Okay, what would be the limitations, no, in the exercise of academic freedom? So, in K versus Board of Higher Education of New York, okay, a US case, no, it speaks of the dominant power or police power of the state and the social interest of the community. So how can these uh, two limitations be given an example? No, in instances where a teacher or professor in higher learning has teachings that is contrary, of course, to a peaceful government, a peaceful society, where they would encourage uprisings or rebellion against the state. Okay, so of course, with the plenary power of the legislature, it can try to suppress these particular dangerous ideas. Okay, and the social interests of the community might also include a situation where the manner by which the research is conducted is unethical. Okay, or no, it is prone to a situation where it violates certain civil rights or human rights, no, of individuals, particularly in the field of scientific research. So we have several cases, no, in the Board of Medical Education versus Judge Alfonso. The Supreme Court sustained the decision of the Medical Board of Education, no, in closing a particular school for being inadequate. Okay, so they close it considering that, well, no, it has not shown sufficient ability to provide the necessary education, and this has also been done, no, with the Legal Education Board, no, exercising the closure of certain law schools who have not performed or who did not have any students passing the bar exams for a certain number of years. No? So some schools were under probation. No, there's a warning that there should be a what do you call this? Number of students to pass the bar in order for you to be allowed to continue in your existence. And in some cases, no, and which is still in effect now, is that if you were not able to provide or to have students a certain percentage of passing, you are not allowed to offer review classes. Okay, so those are some of the possible consequences or the exercise of such freedoms or cases, no, pertaining to academic freedom. Okay, and so in Capital Center versus Court of Appeals, it pertains to the closure of a nursing school. Now, after due notice by the Department of Education, when its teachers and students declared a strike, okay, refusing to hold classes and to take examinations. Okay, so upon the closure of the this particular nursing department, they tried to these students and these teachers, okay, tried to forcibly reopen, no, uh, oh no, the school tried to reopen the uh, the closed school or the closed department at the instance of the striking students, so they cannot do that. Okay, in the case of the University of the Philippines versus Judge Aison, the court sustained the closure of the University of the Philippines Baguio High School on the ground that UP was set up as a tertiary institution, and the high school was set up to only as an incident to its tertiary functions. So, in the case of Isabella versus Court of Appeals, it reiterates what I mentioned a while ago, that the exercise of academic freedom is not absolute. It has restrictions. Now, as any freedoms, okay, as guaranteed by the Constitution, it is not absolute. There are certain limitations, okay, and as mentioned here, it is not meant to be an unbridled license. No, it is actually merely a privilege which assumes the correlative duty to exercise it responsibly. So it is a no, there's a corresponding duty in when these particular institutions are um, academicians, no, exercise such particular freedom. Okay? They should understand that there is the limitation. Okay. Now, outside, of course, the this is an interesting one, which we might have forgotten, no, from our basic our basic constitution in your undergrad, okay, pertaining to our language. Okay, so this is already outside the a coverage of the academic freedoms, but no, the national language of the Philippines is Filipino. No, the Filipino is a formalized form of Tagalog. Okay, mainly a formalized a form of a language based on Tagalog. Yeah, that's the better term, I think. No, that it is based on Tagalog and a formalized one. Now, for the purposes of communication and instruction, the official languages are, of course, Filipino and until otherwise provided for by law, English. Okay. And, well, I think the use of the English language has given the Philippines an edge, to other countries in Asia pertaining to uh, skills that require an understanding of or a comprehension of the English language. Okay. The regional languages are the auxiliary official languages in the regions and shall serve as ancillary media of instructions therein. Okay, has been being institutionalized in our elementary grades, no, where they make use of the mother tongue. Okay, mother tongue. Okay, so of course, in the Ilocano region, you have their mother tongue. There is Ilocano. Okay, so which I think is also being used here in particular La Trinidad, no, where it is an admixture of the different languages. So what would have been the mother tongue? No? The mother tongue probably would have been Ibaloy, no, considering that La Trinidad is was previously solely occupied by the Ibaloys until the arrival of the uh, the migrants who came here. Okay, so Spanish and Arabic shall also be promoted on a voluntary and optional basis, considering that, of course, the Philippines was a Spanish colony for 333 years, okay, or for more than 3 centuries. That and certain other parts of the Philippines, like speak a Creole uh, uh, Spanish dialect known as the Chabacanos. No? Arabic, of course, no, particularly in Sharia courts, the interpretation of the ancient teachings or the old teachings under the Muslim faith. Okay, and the Constitution shall be promulgated in Filipino and English, and shall be translated into major regional languages, Arabic and Spanish. Okay, I have only once read the Filipino version of our Constitution. Okay, not being a nat- not a native speaker, but no, I'm not a fluent speaker of Filipino. It can sometimes be a little difficult for us, particularly here in our region where no Tagalog or Filipino is not that widely spoken. I think and I believe that more would have understood the Constitution in English rather than in Filipino.